We all love an impossibly complex villainous ploy that sees the antagonist needlessly tying up the hero in knots in order to get their revenge or dominate the world or just whatever they fancy. Even if it doesn't always make that much sense to the critical mind, it's usually fun to watch unfold, right? But then there is the polar opposite, those villains that really didn't have to do much at all and were ultimately just better off sitting around and waiting for events to unfold as they were seemingly destined to. Well, these 10 movie villains all instead got a little too bold for their own good, indulging in convoluted, needlessly intricate and excessive acts when simply doing nothing, or next to it, would have actually sufficed. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is Whatculture.com, and these are 10 more movie villains who would have won by doing nothing. Number 10. Jafar Aladdin. The first of 2 Disney animated films on this list, Aladdin's Jafar is a textbook example of a baddie who really had to do very little to get everything they wanted. You see, Jafar seeks the magical lamp containing the genie and ultimately takes Aladdin, the one person worthy of retrieving it, to the Cave of Wonders to find it. Aladdin succeeds, but rather than simply pay Aladdin a decent reward for his efforts and send him on his way, he ill-advisedly throws him and Abu back into the collapsing cave. This prompts our favourite little monkey friend to quickly steal the lamp back and allows Aladdin to make contact with the genie, events which set Aladdin on the path to successfully seek vengeance against Jafar and ultimately vanquish him. Yet, if Jafar had just paid Aladdin off, he would have never had the lamp stolen, nor likely received a challenge from Aladdin at all, and even if he did, the lamp would have made him powerful enough to repel him and rule Agrabah unimpeded. Number 9. Neil McCauley, Heat. At the end of Michael Mann's iconic crime thriller Heat, bank robber protagonist Neil heads to the airport and plans to flee to New Zealand with his girlfriend. All he had to do was enter the airport and start his new life, but Neil suddenly finds out where the duplicitous Waingro is holed up and takes a detour to go and kill him. Neil then returns to the airport but is spotted by the LAPD, prompting him to abandon his girlfriend and flee, resulting in Vincent Hanna eventually shooting him dead. Neil was literally seconds away from being untouchable, but ultimately failed to heed his own memorable advice. Don't let yourself get attached to anything you are not willing to walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you feel that heat around the corner. Unfortunately, he let revenge overcome him and he paid the ultimate price for it. Number 8. Lord Voldemort, Harry Potter. There's nothing more deliciously ironic in fiction than a villain who attempts to prevent their prophesied undoing and in turn only ensures that it actually happens. And there's perhaps no more famous example of that than Harry Potter's Lord Voldemort. Voldemort is centrally preoccupied with the idea that Harry has the power to vanquish him, and so seeks to murder Harry as a child in order to prevent it. The irony, of course, is that Voldemort's assassination attempt goes spectacularly wrong, with the killing curse ultimately rebounding off of Harry and disembodying Voldemort himself. This in turn tees up the rest of the events of the series, with Harry rising to eventually defeat Voldemort, when if the Dark Lord had simply ignored the prophecy and not tried to kill Harry, and in turn not killed Harry's parents either, he and his Death Eaters would have surely ruled the world unchallenged. Instead, Voldemort's arrogant desire to wipe out somebody with the potential to defeat him ironically led to his defeat. And in the very least, why risk a rebounding killing curse when you could just, smother defenseless baby Harry with a pillow or something? I'm not trying to give tips on killing kids, but seriously, you could have done better here. Number 7. Hades, Hercules. Disney's animated Hercules boasts one of the studio's all-time great villains in Hades, in large part due to James Woods' marvelous vocal performance, but that's in spite of the fact that he basically hands himself a giant flaming L. You see, shortly after Hercules' birth, Hades learns that in 18 years a planetary alignment will allow him to free the Titans and conquer Mount Olympus, as long as Hercules doesn't interfere. Hades has his 2 impish goons, Pain and Panic, kidnap baby Hercules and feed him a potion which strips him of his immortality, though not killing him as intended and allowing him to retain his godly strength. Years later, he realizes that Hercules is still alive, and rather than just wait things out until the alignment occurs, decides to try and kill Hercules with the Hydra. But Hercules defeats the Hydra and many other monsters, prompting his transformation into a heroic, revered figure. This sets up the events that lead to Hercules later becoming a true hero, regaining his immortality and defeating Hades. Killing Hercules absolutely wasn't necessary. Leaving him a mere mortal regarded as an outsider by society would have actually sufficed. Number 6. Khan, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Now, Khan is the consensus pick for Star Trek's all-time greatest villain, despite the fact that he ultimately snatched victory from his own mouth through his incessant quest for revenge. You see, by the third act, Khan has both captured the Starship Reliant and taken receipt of the Genesis device, an immensely powerful piece of technology capable of rapidly terraforming planets or, if one wishes, destroying them. Basically, it's a near unstoppable superweapon in the wrong hands, and certainly is in Khan's hands. But rather than relish his success, Khan's thirst to kill Captain Kirk, who previously left him exiled on a remote planet to die, overpowers him. And so Khan decides to follow the Enterprise into the new nebula, where the Reliant's combat advantages are nullified and the Enterprise is able to defeat it. This leads to Khan's demise, and though the incident also temporarily claims the life of Spock, Kirk lives to fight another day, so it was all for naught anyway. Had Khan simply realized when he'd won and not chased the Enterprise, he would have been able to use the Genesis device to do basically anything he wanted. And on another level, you could even argue that Khan escaping Kirk's exile in the first place amounts to him winning, enough that his own henchman even points this out to him. But Khan, obsessed with revenge, can only offer the immortal reply, "He tasks me, and I shall have him." Number 5. Toe Cutter, Mad Max. Now, to be completely fair to Mad Max's main villain, Toe Cutter, he's a card-carrying maniac whose central preoccupation appears to be causing chaos and misery. All the same, though, everybody needs to know when to toe the line, ha 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 ha, and in this case, he should have appreciated when to walk away. You see, midway through the movie, Toe Cutter's protege, Johnny the Boy, is arrested for assaulting a man and raping his girlfriend, but is ultimately released when the witnesses all refuse to testify out of fear. Case closed, right? Well, not quite. Rather than simply accept their victory and perhaps lie low for a minute, Johnny and Toe Cutter decide to terrorize Max's fellow cop Goose, with Johnny forcing him to crash his car. Toe Cutter then makes the truly fateful double mistake of forcing a reluctant Johnny to throw a lit match onto the car wreckage, severely burning Goose, and ordering his gang to attack Max's family, killing his young son Sprog, and leaving his wife Jessie comatose. This of course sets Max on a brutal quest for vengeance, resulting in Toe Cutter and Johnny both being savagely killed at his hand. While it's not within a violent criminal's mindset to calm things down, Toe Cutter had no chill at all, and it ultimately got him and his gang killed when they'd just gotten away with a major crime scot-free. Number 4. Emperor Palpatine, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. So to be completely fair, there isn't a lot that makes watertight sense about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, not least the return of Emperor Palpatine. But even more bizarre than his inexplicable resurrection is his modus operandi, that is, willingly broadcasting his return loudly across the galaxy some 16 hours before he and his fleet are actually able to leave the orbit. While 16 hours isn't a long time, it's better than nothing, and as this movie hilariously proves, a hell of a lot can happen in that period. The heroes moving the needle enough to reach the planet where the fleet is docked and successfully fight back shows this. If Palpatine, a Machiavellian mastermind and supposedly genius-level tactician, simply kept his mouth shut until the Final Order fleet was ready to launch, then he would have almost certainly been unstoppable. And the fact that Palpatine ended up broadcasting the entire message on Fortnite as well only makes it somehow so much worse. Number 3. General Katana, Highlander 2: The Quickening. Highlander 2: The Quickening's villainous General Katana has an easy road to victory right in front of him, given that hero Connor was now a frail old man who literally refused to get involved with stopping Katana's dominance of the planet Zeist because he's just too damn old. But rather than simply leave Connor to age out of existence, Katana ill-advisedly sicked 2 of his lackeys on Connor, sending them to the future in order to kill him. This predictably results in Connor killing both of them, in turn regaining his youthful sturdiness and immortality, and giving him the strength to later kill Katana. All Katana had to do was let nature take its course, and to make matters even more ridiculous, even his dumb goons straight up tell him that he has a mere matter of weeks to live. Katana just had to sit tight and relax for a couple of weeks. Come on, man. Number 2. Professor James Moriarty, Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows. Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows' primary villain is, of course, Professor Moriarty, who conducts a series of murders and terrorist attacks which put Sherlock on his trail. As it turns out, Moriarty's plan involves causing enough international conflict to instigate a world war, which, after acquiring significant shares in companies that would profit from war, would ensure that he would become filthy rich. Moriarty's climactic plan to attack a peace summit in Switzerland is ultimately foiled, but as Moriarty himself subsequently points out to Holmes, world war is ultimately going to happen no matter what. He even straight up tells him so. But you see, for such a smart man, it's outrageous that Moriarty couldn't appreciate that he was better off just letting nature, human nature even, take its course, rather than impatiently prodding things and ultimately putting himself in Sherlock's crosshairs to be foiled. If Moriarty just sat tight for a few years, he would have been minted, rather than getting thrown over the Reichenbach Falls by his nemesis. And number 1, Smaug. The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug ends with Bilbo, Thorin and the dwarves heading to the Lonely Mountain to do battle with the dragon Smaug. Their plan? To fire up the mountain's forge and bury the dragon in the melted gold that he's surrounded by. But of course he breaks free from the gold and flies away to Lake Town, which he then sets ablaze at the start of the third and final Hobbit film, The Battle of the Five Armies. However, this also results in him being killed by Bard the Bowman, who possesses the last black arrow capable of felling him, and that it certainly does. But here's the thing, Smaug was much better off staying in and around the Lonely Mountain and defending his homestead from the invaders, rather than venturing off on an ultimately pretty frivolous revenge plot against Lake Town for helping the dwarves. Whether or not he would have successfully repelled Bilbo, Thorin and company, it made a damn sight more sense for him to stay put rather than flying to Lake Town and, as it turned out, getting himself killed. You big idiot.